Hello, everybody. I am very excited to introduce you to Rubia Lacerda. Is that correct?
That's awesome. Yes. Thank
Rubia
you.
Lacerda. And this is our fourth episode of Transcend Together, a podcast of casual and candid conversations about spirituality, ascension, consciousness, and beyond. And today, I'm pretty sure we're going to go beyond. Rubia, just a short introduction. Rubia is a trance channeler, channels other dimensions, and she'll give us a little bit more information about that. I met Rubia online through a friend, and I recently finished one of her courses, You Are the Oracle, a channeling course. And yeah, just the opportunity to get some of her time to pick her brain, to get her, just worldview and perspective on a bunch of different things, how she got here. So first of all, welcome. Thank you so much for making time.
Thank you. And thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
Okay, so to kick this off, let us know a little bit about you. So where you came from, a bit about your background as a human.
So I'm a transgender, as you said, transgender theta healer, and I support other starseeds and light workers to connect deeper to their intuition, their channeling gifts and abilities, and also supporting with the reprogramming of DNA, anything that's on our ancestral lineage and societal programs and childhood wounds, anything that will stop us from achieving that next level, which we're going to go a bit deeper later on the conversation. And my background, I am actually originally Brazilian, and I've been living in Australia for almost 17 years. And I remember growing up in Brazil in a very small countryside religious town, always feeling quite different from a young age. I remember having thoughts of like, I remember one of my very first thoughts about like life. I think I was about 5 or 6. Like, if my parents didn't meet, would I exist? And I had this panic. I was like, oh my God, I would not have existed if they hadn't met. I had already had all these, these thoughts that I'm not sure, lots of children were having these thoughts at that age. And then quite young, around 8, 9, I started to become quite obsessed with extraterrestrial beings and life outside of the planet. And that at that age, I would tell my parents, I'm not from here. And I didn't really have any access to much information back then. So I'm 40. This was back in the early 90s when I was already saying this stuff. There was no social media. There was just what you see on TV, but I could feel it. And I would tell my parents, and they would kind of laugh. They knew that I was different, but they would kind of laugh it off. And I then just got on, with life. I started going out very early. I was 14 years old, and I was just drinking a lot of alcohol because there was so much energy happening in my being that I didn't know how to deal with. There wasn't a lot to do in a small town, and I had a lot of energy. So I started just drinking and binge drinking. And until I was 16, I started to have all these nightmares and these lucid dreams. So I would wake up, I would be in my bedroom, there was someone sitting in my bed, just having a chat. And then I would wake up. So basically I started tapping into alternate realities, but I would call them like nightmares because it was quite scary. And I would call mom would come to my bedroom and say, Mom, there's people in my room. And she would turn the light on and I couldn't sleep. And one thing led to another. And my parents said, what do you want to do about this? And I have to say, I am so grateful because my dad's a doctor. My mom used to be a nurse assistant, and they could have said, maybe she's going a little bit crazy. Maybe she needs mental health support. But instead, they asked me what I wanted to do. And they're quite mainstream conventional parents. So I'm really grateful that they did that back then. And I was already having problems sleeping. So I used to take on and off, I would take tablets, sleeping tablets, because I was just, I couldn't sleep sometimes. I would take it. And I knew it wasn't like the best thing for me. And my parents had a friend that was a spiritist. It's a common religion in Brazil. It's called Spiritism. And I said, can your friend come over and I can have a chat to him, because they believe in life before and after death. And they talk about mediumship. So he came over, had a chat. He said, Ruby, you have mediumship abilities and you can actually help people with your abilities. Gave me all these books for me to read. And I started reading. And then that's when things went crazy. Then I couldn't sleep. There were so many spirits in my room. There were so many things in my reality. My psychic abilities went through the roof. I knew when something was going to happen. I could communicate with family that had passed over. Yes. So like lights would flicker in my house. I could hear like people, like beings walking on the carpet, like you could hear as if someone had got up to go get water in the middle of the night, but no one did that. So like it was quite paranormal. Is that the word? Yeah. And you imagine 16-year-old going out partying, drinking every weekend, and then this is happening. And alcohol actually made it worse. So I used to drink Friday and Saturday, sometimes a little bit on Sunday, but Sunday it was the evening. My cat slept with me every night. She wouldn't even come into my room. She would stay outside. And when she stayed outside of the room, that's when I knew. I'm like, okay, something's going to happen tonight. And I did have darker spirits that would come and try, like I remember like being suffocated, and I would wake up. I thought I was going to die. And I tried to wake up over and over and I could not. So they were like, really like, kind of like playing with me. They felt scary back then, but I then learned that they're more like mischievous spirits that were just playing with my psychic abilities. And then, didn't have much access to a lot. So I just went to uni. My parents say, if you go to uni, we'll pay for you to go to uni, because they knew I didn't like school. I thought school was so boring because I am very creative. I love dancing. I love exercising, moving my body, singing, doing all artistic things. And in Brazil, you have to get a job, you have to get a job, get married, have kids, and be happily ever after. And that to me sounded like a living nightmare. And being academic people, they really wanted me to go to uni. And I spent a whole year not doing anything. I had a gap year when I was 18. And they gave me this huge book and said, find something that you want to do. And I went through the book and I found translator and interpreter. So I started learning English when I was 14, because yes, I always wanted to live overseas. Back then it was America. And I was like, yes, I love English. I love Portuguese. That's it. Let's do this course. And I did the course, and then 9/11 happened. America made it really hard for South Americans to get in. And someone at uni told me about Australia. And I was like, the weather's nice. You can go there, get a job as a cleaner, and you make good money. And, it's people are nice. I was like, yeah, winning. Let's go to Australia. Didn't even know much about Australia. And I said, it's also my ticket out of Brazil. I always wanted to leave Brazil. So Brazil is a beautiful country, beautiful people, the beautiful culture. Unfortunately, some of the vibration there is quite low, and there's a lot of corruption in the government. But the government, it's only a reflection of the people. So the people, and I say this with so much love, this is an observation rather than judgment, but a lot of the people there, not everyone, of course, are quite corrupt. And I could feel that in my being. I could feel it, and I couldn't do anything about it. I was like, I want to be in a place where it's not as corrupt. I want to be in a place that's more in alignment. Why are people so mean to each other? Why is there so much corruption? So that was really hard for me. My parents could tell that I used to get quite depressed with, they used to think it was for no reason, but it was energetically, it can be quite dense. So when I came to Australia, they paid for me to get here. I started working as a cleaner. And I was studying English during the day, and I would clean, offices in the city, in the Brisbane city. Never worked in my life before. And I was so happy. I was just happy. I was like, oh my God, this is great, making my own money. And then I thought, well, one day I want to work for the government. If one day I work for the government, then I'll be happy. And I did all sorts of jobs. So I never gave up. I did hospitality, then I did banking, then I did government. And then when I was in government, I was super depressed. And I was like, okay. And my life theme has always been, and is much better nowadays, self-esteem and self-worth. Even though I had these incredible gifts, I didn't believe in myself. And so but I knew I was getting depressed doing things that society told me to do, 9 to 5, you know, and then go out every weekend and get shit faced. And that was so depressing. It was like killing my soul, basically. So in 2015, that's when I decided to go part-time at a government job. And I started studying. I started naturopathy. Then I was like, I still thought I needed a degree to be worthy. So I only did that for a year and a half. Then I studied transpersonal counseling. I finished that, did pranic healing, theta healing. I did so many courses. And then when COVID hit, that's when I invested in a mentor. And I can keep going. Let me know. Does that answer your first question? Do you have any other questions before I keep going? Because I could go on forever. You know me.
No, that was great. I think, yeah, awesome just to get like that overview of it. And yeah, it's really, I think it's really relatable, you know, that path. And I think particularly for intuitives, people that are like creative, yeah, looking for an alternative way to, I guess, make a living, to survive in the world, which is very much about, yeah, it can be very rigid. So then the pandemic was quite recent, lockdown. So then I think you had the mentor. So that's great in terms of almost like a human 3D level of your journey. And yeah, why don't we go back and say, what were the, yeah, it sounds like the paranormal stuff started really early. And I guess a lot of the spiritual path is just understanding what those senses are and then how to use them. So yeah, maybe you can tell us how that developed, and then any kind of experiences, any like key milestones where you had like epiphanies, aha moments that helped you like move forward, or yeah, just get more understanding about your spiritual path.
Great question. Yes. So when I was 16 and my parents' friends came over, gave me all those books. I started reading books about mediumship. And in Brazil, it's very common. There's lots of books that have been written, automatic writing. So Human Rubia by the Arcturian Council of Light. Those books are so common in Brazil. And I read many, many books like that from spirits that had passed over, and they would talk about how it was on the other side. I was reading those books. I was reading books about mediumship, how to deal with mediumship. And it was all based on the teachings of Spiritism. So later down the track, what I found is that Spiritism still had a lot of like human, it was kind of still inside of a box. Even though it wasn't a religion, there were still too many blocks. You can't charge for helping people. Like that's such a limitation. So I eventually I stopped following Spiritism. It did teach me a lot. It helped me a lot. And throughout the years, it was basically things that would come up that I felt like, oh, there's something there. I feel like I need to heal this. I was in an unhealthy relationship. What I need to do here. And I started following teachers like Caroline Mays. She was a huge part of my journey, who was supporting me to.
What does she do? Sorry, what kind of work does she do?
Oh my God, she's a medical intuitive.
A medical intuitive.
Intuitive, yes. So she basically, when she started, she would look at someone and she'll look at you, and she would be able to read you what's going on, like physically, emotionally, and spiritually, and why you have those blocks. And she actually started to work with a brain surgeon in America, and I did one of their courses. So if you haven't heard of her, so last name is MYSS. She's been one of the main teachers. I still follow her, and I started following her stuff back in 2008. A lot of like archetypes, and that was really like that point. So when I was 16 with the Spiritism, and then back in 2008, how old was I? About 15 years ago, that was a big part of my journey, where, because she's very spiritual, but her background is not spiritual. It's not a super spirit. She used to be an author. So she wanted to learn. So like she was teaching in a ways that my mind could understand, but it also made sense spiritually. So that for me was like, and I knew that I had to heal. So what I learned from her is that in order for me to best manage my own mediumship gifts and abilities, I had to heal some things inside of myself. So I follow a lot of that journey, and yes, a lot of healing throughout the years. And then what happened, because I started drinking alcohol so early, I wasn't going out as much, you know, a few years ago, but when I would go out, I would binge drink, and I was like, I cannot do this anymore. So that unhealthy relationship with alcohol, I remember one day, this was back in 2016 or start of 2017, I said, universe, God, divine creator, all that is, whatever it is that is out there, please help me. I can't do this on my own, because I just had gone out and, you know, drinking, and I was terrible to my ex at the time. I was like, this is not me, and I don't want this in my life anymore. Send to me something that's going to change my life and help me get rid of this addiction. And 2 weeks later, I was introduced to someone that did ayahuasca ceremonies, and I signed up, and 2 months later I did it. So that was in 2017, and I haven't had alcohol for almost 5 years. So it was the thing, like I asked for it, and and ayahuasca, and my desire was to stop drinking alcohol, and also to see how can I put my gifts and abilities into practice full time. I want to do this for work, because I could not see how that was ever be possible. I just couldn't. I just thought this is going to be a hobby forever, and I'm going to work in a job that I hate for the rest of my life and do this on the side. And ayahuasca showed me that first weekend that I sat with her, she showed me this movie of my life. She said, Rubia, everything is possible in this reality. And here are the possibilities. There's a possibility that you will do this, and you're going to be following your heart and your soul's calling. And then there's a possibility where you don't, but you might be really depressed. And you know what? Both you get to choose. No one gets to tell you what to do. You get to choose which reality you want to. But if you want the first reality, the one where you follow your heart and your soul's calling, you've got some work to do. And you've got to walk a path that not many people have the courage to walk. And you're going to have to step into the unknown and just freaking trust, because you're going to have to trust, because there's going to be many times that you're going to be like, what? And the people around you, they'll be questioning you and thinking you're going a little bit crazy. And I said, you know what, ayahuasca, I've got nothing to lose. Bring it on. And then, does that answer your question? These are the main key points. And since then COVID hit. I was working full time. So I started my business 4 years ago. And 2 years ago, when COVID hit, so at the start of 2020, I was in a job. I just absolutely disliked that job so much. It was a call center for a government department. And it was like, oh my God, just talking to people that are really unhappy. You're the middleman between the government, and you just not good. Don't recommend. And it was meant to be that I was in that job, because I've been in jobs before where I was comfortable, because, you know, I get to do lots of things that I like doing, like admin stuff. And because of COVID, I signed up so this mentor came to my life. I was like, I think it's time. I sat with ayahuasca again. Ayahuasca said, Rubia, it's time. If there's a year for you to come out of the extraterrestrial wardrobe, 2020 is the year. So I came out, and I had all these people. There was a lot of attention. I posted on a Gaia TV group. There were hundreds of people from all over the world commenting, and big comments, like saying they loved me coming out so much and thanking me. And I was like, whoa, I'm onto something big here. But I had no idea what to do with it, because I had no business experience. And I was giving people sessions for free, and it was extremely tiring. Yes, go for it.
Okay, so I just want to go back a little bit, because we've got the channeling of other beings, like dead people. When did the extraterrestrial thing come into your life, like more prominently? Because ayahuasca, we're kind of talking about the earth and kind of earth spirits and plant. And before that, you were talking about spiritism, which was a little bit more in that religious setting.
Family spirits. Yeah.
So when did we get like alien? When did we get off planet? And when did we get, UFO, extraterrestrial? What was your first, what were some memories that really made that resonate for you?
I felt a connection with them, like I said at the start, from very young age, about 9 years old. And then I was obsessed with them. But then it was always there, but I never thought, oh, I can channel them. They started to come through. So when I started this healing work, just over 4 years ago, and I said, I'm going to start this. I was doing on the side. I was doing after hours. When I did it, it was just sometimes when I had a client, I could feel like indigenous beings coming through. I could feel their spirit guides, but I wouldn't actually let them come through because I'm like, oh, they'll think I'm making it up.
Right.
So a few years, when was it? When I finished my studies in 2018, I went to Brazil and I was there for 3 months working as a healing counselor. That's when I officially started as in my hometown, but I kept it very normal. I was a holistic counselor and a healer because a religious town, I had to keep it like, I thought I had to keep it normal. And I was doing pranic healing. So pranic healing is like similar to Reiki. You clear the chakras, you clear the cleanses the chakras, a powerful, powerful modality. And I remember one of my very first clients, she was lying on the table and I started to cleanse her chakras. And I remember thinking, I was like, gosh, I really can't do this for the rest of my life because I love talking, I love interacting, and I can't do this for the rest of my life where I'm standing in front of somebody for 45 minutes waving my hand. And I said, I love energy healing. I know I can do it. And then as I started having these thoughts, I started to see these blue extraterrestrial beings through my third eye vision. You know how a lot of people, side note, are into Arcturians, Pleiades, they're into all of these beings. I wasn't. I didn't even know who they were.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't know. All I knew was I believe in extraterrestrials and there's life outside of this planet. That was it. That was my knowledge of extraterrestrials.
I see.
So I started seeing and they were blue. They was very specific. I could see them clearly and they're like, hello. So we can actually teach you something and we can help you do something a lot more powerful that you're going to enjoy much more. And your clients will benefit a lot more from it.
What do they look like? So they're blue. Maybe you can like, for people to help try to visualize or try,
Yeah,
comprehend.
they're blue.
And you can say vague because if it's energy, it's hard to think. But
I do have a photo of it, which I don't know if there's anywhere on your podcast that you can post somewhere, but eventually I Googled and I found a photo that represents them.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Yeah, blue. So like that, a lot of us see like the grays that they're tall and they have that shaped, but it's like a mixture of human with grays.
Okay.
And they're dressed in like Egyptian clothing. So like the gold things in their head and like they're very royal and right. It's hard to explain.
What species would this be?
So I didn't know who they were. And months later, I found out that they were the Arcturians because I said, who are you guys? Can you tell me? And they're like, no, we won't tell them because we want you to learn how to trust. I said, okay, no worries. I said, can you give me signs? Yes, we can give you signs. So then talking to one person one day online, I read something Arcturians and my gut's like, yes. So I Googled Arcturians and the first photo that came up, I was like, oh my God, it was them. Yes.
Can I share a small story just to kind of give you some perspective? I've always been obsessed with like the different types. Like maybe not always, in the last 5, 6, 7 years, I've been, hearing about Palladians, Andromedans, Arcturians, all of the rest. And then I was always asking my psychic medium friends, like where I came from, what my history was, because they were finding out that they were, associated with different star systems. And some people could speak to my guides and I was saying, come on, is it this one? Is it that one? And I was guessing. And then they were like playing games, like my guides were playing games with my psychic friends, just, putting like a grasshopper or a, really, really silly cartoon things in their mind. And they were just trying to like, basically, I think they were saying, Kevin, you're too attached to who, what the identity is, and it's probably not the right time. Funnily enough, like recently I did like a galactic astrology natal chart. They say that through your astrology, you can find out which star systems you've been from and from your origins. And I got that and I reached out to a professional and they came back with something that didn't resonate. And they actually couldn't connect to my soul to find out what it was, because they were saying, oh, we can't actually give you the reading because they're choosing not to be found at the moment. So I'm still in this kind of limbo state of wanting to know, but probably it's still too attached, and I have to trust again in a similar way that you're saying, trust that it'll come to me at the right time. And probably detach a little bit from it. So I just wanted to share that because yeah, it's
I
just a
love
different
that.
way of coming in.
Yes, and it makes sense. I swear, when you detach, when you truly detach, it may come to you. And you know what? It may never come.
Yeah.
And one thing that the Arcturians said to me, it took them months. And I actually asked my mentor, she's been connected to all these. She's like, I can't tell, I don't know. And I was a little bit annoyed. I was like, what do you mean you don't know? You should know. And what they told me months and months later, when I discovered who they were, they said, well, we were testing your trust and your lack of detachment. And also they said, because this is one of the most asked questions when I'm trans channeling, who is my soul family? Who am I connected to? They always ask. And the beings I channel, they always say, I can't tell, we can't tell you that. Go and get an Akashic record or find someone that can tell you, because that's not something that we do. And they have said, and there's a reason why they don't do that. They said, if humans, the star seeds and light workers, more specifically focused on their evolution and ascension as a human, and healing themselves and growing as much as they do in obsessing with the beings from other dimensions and where they come from and all of that, we would have evolved, we would be in the next stage of evolution already. So they said it's a little bit like, don't know if that's the correct term, like shiny object. It's kind of like shiny object. It's almost like a distraction from going deeper in the more important things.
Yeah,
yeah, which is interesting. They said that, and why they don't. They will say, we can't tell you that. They know, but they won't say it.
Yeah, I imagine it would interfere with the process a lot more because, yeah. Sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to get that in because it was interesting for you to have found that and to know the reasons why there were blocks or barriers to actually getting that information. So, yeah, you were saying that the Arcturians came through, blue beings, and told you that there's another way that you can do your practice.
Yes, and I was like, please go away. I cannot tell people in my small hometown, religious town, that I'm seeing blue beings. I said, are you crazy? No, I don't want your help. Go away. And they kept coming back. So I finished in Brazil. I was there for 3 months, came back to Australia, and I tried to do my business here with no experience. Of course, it didn't work. I went back to work full time again. And that's, a year a year and a half after that first experience that I started seeing them, I would see and feel them. So during those 18 months that I would see and feel them, I would say, I'm not sure I want to channel you. It was almost like now when I look back, I didn't feel good enough or worthy. So I had an indigenous being. So I have Amazonian indigenous background. I have an indigenous being, that very powerful being that's been with me my whole life. He would come through and I would channel for myself. So whenever I needed help, he would come through, he would speak, and he had a big team with him. I didn't know that until I started channeling the Arcturians. Then they showed me, they said, this indigenous being that you've been channeling has been the portal, he has been the one that's been bringing through a lot of messages that we want to, that you weren't ready to receive from us. He's the one that's been bringing that. And I wasn't channeling for anyone, like for my clients. And I had clients that were very sensitive that would come in, like, why are you not channeling? I can feel that you are channeling. Why are you not doing? I said, because I'm afraid that people think I'm making it up. Yeah.
Judgment, right?
It's a big one. It's a big one. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, like I just felt that because
yeah.
Do you think that that's for a lot of star seeds and light workers, just this like, I don't know, like tall poppy syndrome is a thing, and also like, why are you special? Do you know what I mean? It's like why you are chosen one, and that hits a wound to say, maybe I shouldn't shine, maybe I should keep myself small so that people don't feel intimidated, or people don't, what you project or what they project onto you in terms of self-worth. So yeah, maybe I would love to hear a little bit about some of the themes and wounds that you've been overcoming, and maybe some like similarities and patterns you've seen with some of your clients.
Yes, I'll share that. What's coming through for me to share now is, this is really important. If there's anything that anyone takes out of this whole podcast, I shouldn't say that, because you take everything and take this one, the top of everything. So there are various false programs that have been put on the planet Earth and humanity so that we don't evolve and ascend to the next stage, which stops the whole of all of the universes from ascending, because it's so important that planet Earth does, so that all of the other planets and universes can do so. This is a huge, huge, our evolution and ascension, what we're going through right now, it's so important. But we have been, we have been programmed with things that do not serve us and our evolution and ascension, that is slowing down things. And one of them is us not feeling good enough. Who am I? Who do I think I am to do this? And a reminder for all of you listening to this is we are a fractal of source. So imagine that there is the oneness, there's all that is, there's the divine, there's God, creator, universe, call it whatever you like to call it. I'm going to say source, God, divine. So I'm going to use the word source. So we are a fractal of source experiencing itself through this human form, which means that we are divine. We are so divine, and we are so meant to express the divine in whatever way, shape, or form that our soul has chosen to do so. So my soul has chosen to express the divine through channeling, through healing, through teaching, through mentoring. And my heart is so expansive in doing so that I chose a path that has taken me to be where I am today doing this. Because to be honest, if I wasn't, I'm not even sure if I would want to be on this planet, because I'm so passionate about this. And so it's crucial. So if you're listening to this and you resonate, do whatever it is that you need to do to be so full of yourself that it's not even funny. The more full of yourself that you are, the better it is for you, for those around you, and for the whole of humanity and the planet. Because yes, there are people that are going to be triggered and say you're full of yourself, and who cares? Because there's going to be more people that their lives will be changed by you having so much self-belief and following your soul's calling. Does that make sense?
100%. And I think this is like, it goes like 100% resonate with that message. And it's something that I wish a younger version of myself heard, because you don't hear that from people. Particularly, spirituality can be a really lonely path, and especially like some of the like programs, it's just a figment of your imagination. Don't have that imaginary friend. In the movies, all the paranormal stuff is made to be scary. So, anything to do with like, the sixth sense or other intuitive abilities either is ridiculed and like teased, or it's just made so scary that even if you have like a light flicker or something like that, you'll just immediately go into fear, and that doesn't allow you to connect to it. So I think the self-worth is one thing that, like, who am I? Like, who do I think I am to be speaking about spirituality or to be connecting to the beings or whatever it is? So there's that self-worth aspect. But I also feel there's this, I think in parallel, or to complement that, is this judgment of other people who, spirituality in general had for a long time was a minority thing, a fringe thing, a taboo thing, had a lot of stigma. Inner Sydney, in Australia, that was my experience. Maybe in Brazil it's different because there's like, it's religious. So I think maybe people are a bit maybe open to.
No, we have to. So Catholic people and Christians, they judge spiritists as a thing of the devil, because we were talking to spirits. Yeah, so that was what we do. Yeah.
So there's some really strong, rigid, strict perceptions and beliefs around it. And then it comes down to belief, because one of the big things about tapping into intuition is trust, right? Is that little hint, is that synchronicity, is that sign, is that, whatever it is, do I, almost wipe it off as a coincidence, or do I actually follow that sign? And that's what I'm curious about for you, how did you learn to trust that and turn it into a reliable source of information?
I was writing some quick notes because I'm like, there's so many things you're saying that I'm like, I want to talk about. Just going back a little bit, what you said, the judgment. So there are multiple realities available. So when we shift our frequency, when we heal the things, when we remove the ancestral programs, the societal conditioning, the childhood trauma, then we are in a frequency that the only realities that exist are the realities that will support our soul's calling. And this is the message that came through. Remind me to send the post to you when I came out. It's the message from the Arcturian. The first time that I channeled the Arcturian being spoke through me. They said, when you let go of the madness of your mind and your ego, you make space for your soul's true calling, and the universe conspire for your soul's true calling to be put into place. And I think I told you this story. Even the guy from Interviews with ED, Ruben Langdon, he actually shared my post and quoted this part of my post.
Oh, right. Cool. Yeah, I watched that series. Brilliant series on Gaia. It's like amazing.
He shared my post on his Facebook page.
I see.
But when I came out, because I put I shared my post on the Gaia TV. So like it's so simple, but so big. So know that when I came out, also please read my story on my page. A lot of people say on my website where I talk about coming out and all the fears I had of coming out, of people from the past, of my friends from the past that I don't even talk about, old work colleagues. What will my parents think? My parents will have to put up with the backlash. And you know what? None of that happened.
Right.
None of it. And I think in the last 2.5 years, I may have been judged 2 or 3 times online by someone that I never heard from them before. They just put a little like small comment. It wasn't even that bad on my post. I just deleted and blocked them. And that's it. All I have received is support after support after support. So remember this, every time you have fear, what will people think of me? Remember that as you work on your frequency and as you follow your passion, you will, like, the universe will conspire to put people around you that support. And also it will teach you how to deal with anyone. You just don't care. And another thing as well, you said you wish your younger self had heard what I said before. And one thing that we say in Theta Healing, there's a download that's so powerful. We chose to come here and we chose this human experience to experience who we are not, so we can discover who we truly are.
Nice.
So how can we know what we really love, what we really want to do if we hadn't experienced that? I experienced so much of why I'm not and what I do not want. And that is one of the reasons why I'm so certain that what I love so much and why I go so much for this. Someone once asked me, aren't you scared that people will think you're crazy? And I had other people that come and have a chat to the beings that I channel and say, what if I'm crazy? What if I am actually making it all up? This other channel asked me. They said, look, go back to your 9-to-5 job. If you think that is a normal thing, go there and do that. So for me, the craziest thing I've ever done in my life is to sit in the desk for 40 hours doing something that I absolutely hated. That was the craziest thing. Talking to aliens, hello, that's the nicest, more normal thing for me that I've ever done. So remember that as well. Crazy based on whose perception.
So that's beautiful. I've got a few things just to respond. Crazy, it's like crazy before, when the world was so rigid and so, I guess, like very similar. Like crazy in the world now, like what's happening with politics, with the environment, with, everything on a global stage. Like this type of crazy, you choose your which kind of crazy. One crazy will give you life and energy and like imagination and magic and like, gives you a sense of wonder and curiosity. The other one is like, look how much control there is, and look how much like fear, and look how much contraction there is. So one's expansive and like what's in the universe, how, what's beyond this planet. And then the other one can feel like, okay, well, I'm in this victim mode. I'm in this scarcity mindset. That was, I think we'll get onto the future and our vision for the futures a little bit later. But I think one thing that I would want to share, just that I've been picking up, and it was actually coming from our in the course that I did with Rubia for 6 weeks, in the channeling that we had a question and answer channeling with the I guess the students and the beings that Rubia brought through. But one of them was asking about her artwork and like her permission to create Indigenous artwork, cultural appropriation, that kind of stuff. And one of the words that really cut through, and I think it hit all of us, was this deep wound of persecution. And I think this needs to be addressed, because when you kind of look at this spiritual perspective of things, it's not just it's not just contained in this one lifetime. When you think and when you broaden your kind of comprehension of life as, death is just a transition into the next experience that you have in another body, in another incarnation. So the fact that there can be like ancestral or generational or past life trauma related to speaking out, and for me that's been really resonant about coming out of the spiritual closet, saying that I am interested in this stuff, this woo-woo stuff. I even like it's almost like apologetically talk about it still and use that language, which I'm still giving it energy, and I need to be conscious not to kind of continue that, because I'm only like validating that way of doing things. So, to break out of that, what do we call it, that template, that program, it really needs to be about understanding that, potentially and probably in a past life, there were some issues around speaking out, because getting killed, getting ostracized, getting alienated, getting, pushed out of society, not being accepted. And, that's what they say, a lot of starseeds in the past, or a lot of like old souls have been like witches, or have been, wizards, druids, all these indigenous cultures, shamans, where they have had, a voice and the ability to look between two worlds and to be that bridge. But then, when I guess it's all different in different time eras, but when science and when rationality came in, it really did squash a lot of the mysticism and these spiritual beliefs. So I think on one level, just recognizing that this wound can be something that is carried over, and it's something for your soul to liberate yourself from in this lifetime. The other piece of that, because I think there's two sides of it. One is like, seeing if this is a recurring thing and something for you to break as a pattern in this lifetime. But the other thing is that when we speak our truth, we give people permission to do that also. Oh my God, this drilling's going to start again. Oh, I can't believe it. They said they finished at this hour. Okay. I'm going to go on mute, and I'm going to let you continue for a little bit, and maybe once it stops, then we can keep going. So I'm going to ask, okay, so after the Arcturians came for your practice, I'll let you run a little bit for that. That's okay?
Yeah. After they came to my practice, tell me.
Yeah, after they came to your practice, how did your practice evolve? After, like, I don't know, how did you step into it?
Okay. And before I answer that question, what I wanted to say about what you were just saying before, yes, people stepping, when it's a permission slip. So when you do that, you're giving permission for others to do the same. And the thing is, a lot of the times you think people will judge you, and guess what? A lot of people are thinking the same. And we are, like, I think I said this when we were doing the course, I said, we are paving brand new paths that some people have not paved. And it's so crucial that we do this. It's so, so crucial. And you said, so your question was about the Arcturians. Did I answer all your other questions? Yes, I did. You did ask me a question earlier about intuition. What would I tell people to do regarding to open up the intuition? Did you want me to answer that after I talk about the Arcturians?
Yeah, let's finish the Arcturians about your practice, and then we can loop back.
Sounds good. So when I started channeling, I started trance channeling. Then when I came out of the ET world, that I had wardrobe, I had this amazing gift, and I had people reaching out, and But I still had programs of savior, rescuer, victim in my field, no idea how to do business marketing. So what was happening is I was attracting people that wanted like a cosmic activation for free. And I did about 6 of those, and I was just in bed for like 2 days and I couldn't move, and I was like feeling sick and tired. And that's when this mentor came into my reality, like through a series of synchronicities. And I booked a call with her and I told her, she said, you can't do this. She said, do you realize that you're actually giving away not only your energy and the beings, the light beings, the Arcturian Council of Light's energy for free with nothing in exchange? And she said, Rubia, there's a lot of work to do that. And yeah, it was incredible. It's a mentor. It's a teaching how to sell, market, and put myself out in the world so that I can serve the souls I'm here to serve at the highest. Because if I don't know how to put myself out in the world, how would I possibly do that? So I took a huge loan and to invest in this business mentorship. And then I was able to, okay, I knew what to do. Then I started doing cosmic activations. I started to do that properly. And the Arcturians actually, when all of this was happening, I was guided to have a theta healing session, which is the reprogramming, going to the root of all of those things that you said, the ancestral, the childhood, the societal programming. I had a theta healing session for myself, and I felt so excited because it was incredible. I found all of these programs that I didn't even know existed. And the Arcturians actually guided me to go and become a theta healer, my soul and the Arcturians. And then they said, we want you to work with this. You're going to be working with this modality for a long, long time. So what happens is when I started working with them, it just changed everything. I completely stopped doing energy healing, like the pranic healing, because I really didn't enjoy. Sometimes I'll do it. I'll send distance healing to family or friends in Brazil, which is the pranic healing. And sometimes I have a friend that may be going through something that all they need is energy healing. I'll do it, but I do like 10, 15 minutes. It's not something that I spend a lot of time. Because the Arcturians come through and it's a lot more powerful. So I trance channel them, they come through me, they get to have a chat to people, and they do spiritual surgery. The things that we co-create together are so much more powerful than what I was doing. So they were 100% right. And I didn't need to do any course to do the co-creation that I'm doing with the Arcturian Council of Life. They taught me how to do it. They come and they speak through me. And there's a lot of things that I do with them when I trance channel that I do when I'm channeling as well. Everything that I do when I trance channel them, I can also do in a channeling state. I don't need to always go into trance. So it has, and obviously what I had to work on was on my business skills, on my self-worth skills, and I had to work on the programs that were not serving me to make space for the ones that do serve me and my purpose at the highest. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's awesome. Is drilling still happening?
It's very faint.
Oh, it's very faint. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Can hear a little bit. I can know that it's there.
Okay, so it's not too bad. The microphone's close, so all good. All right. Well, no, that's beautiful, and it's so great to see the evolution about, from your natural abilities into the challenges that you had to overcome, and then some of the key guidance. Because I'm a big believer that healers need healers too. It's not that just because you're a healer doesn't mean that you can do it. Like, there's so many aspects: the mind, the body, the energy, the emotions. There's so many aspects of it. And when you have like a mentor or guidance from another perspective, it really does fill in a blind spot. And I think that's the beautiful thing about it. Like, we all have different gifts, and we're all meant to lift each other up, based on what we're given. And then that way we can reach like wholeness as a collective, rather than saying I'm the all master, all seeing, all powerful like healer that can do everything. It's like, no, we still always also need to reach out for help. And a lot of the time what I'm finding is that it's about the higher beings coming through us. So it's almost being so humble in the fact that we're the vessel for that divine energy to heal it, like to come and do the healing. And I think the important thing for us is like clearing the pipe, clearing the column, so that it can come through without the filter or the lens of our self-doubt, our confidence, our abandonment issues, any of that inner child stuff. And then that's on our part, and then the universe can come through and like all the magic can start to happen. That's beautiful. Like, that is such a great way to get to know you and what you do, and also the different modalities and how powerful and how interesting they are. Tell us about your course, You Are the Oracle. How did it come about, and what your intention is for it? And then I'd be so happy to, you know, share some of my experiences with it, because I just finished it and I thought it was great.
So You Are the Oracle is a 6-week channeling and intuition course to support people to activate deeper. So for people, you know, we all know that we already have the intuition there. So activate deeper their channeling, intuitive gifts, and connection with spirit guides and soul family, and potentially trance channeling. As you know, Kevin, you know that there's a high chance that we can trance channel there for the first time, like you and some others did. And it really is for us to, in order for me to be where I'm at today, doing what I'm doing, and do everything that I've shared here with you today, and having the courage to step into the unknown, I could only do it. Yes, there are many things I had to work on, certain beliefs and programs and all of that, but everything I was led by my intuition. When I took out that loan, I had a really close friend at the time that I didn't tell him the amount. Months and months later, I told him the amount, and he said I was crazy. And he said I was too crazy. I was going down this path of spirituality way too much. And just a few months ago, he said, Rubia, I am so proud of you. You've come so far. You're doing amazing. So even though, and like my parents, there were many people, more mainstream people in my life, I didn't tell them all the details, but I just knew. So this is something that I had been practicing for years and years and years, connecting deeper with my trust channel, with my intuition, with my intuition channel, and then with my channeling abilities, where even though like here today, I'm speaking with you and it's channeling is coming through me. I don't need to think about it. And the trance channeling as well, and practicing our intuitive gifts and abilities. Once you have that trust, so one of the things that I'm going to do on the next You Are the Oracle is download the trust key code. Because once you trust, you listen to your intuition, you take aligned action, there is no other choice but for the universe to bring through, to the synchronistically move things for you to all be aligned, for everything to work out. You're always going to be provided. Life has always got your back, as long as you are listening and taking aligned action. There's no such thing as, oh, I'm a good person, I'm a star seed and light work and things are going to happen for me. No, it really is a matter of stepping outside of your comfort zone. Really, life really does start outside of your comfort zone. And knowing your intuition, following your intuition is key. And this is something that I teach during the You Are the Oracle. We do live practices, which, as you know, are super powerful. And for the next one, everything that I taught about clairaudience, all the clairs, all this stuff about trance channeling, a lot of personal stories, oversoul network, dimensions, portals. Oh my God, there was so much stuff. All that I taught, it's actually pre-work for the next one. So people will have access to that as a pre-work, and they'll have access to a 2.5-hour Lionsgate transmission last year, trance channel from the Arcturian Council of Light. So that's a part of the pre-work as well. And then, yes, we're going to have 6 weeks where we're going to go deep onto practice. And as you know as well from practice, from being there, it is quite a powerful journey, that some things we know and some things we don't know. Like some things are big surprises. So the results go beyond our mind's comprehension. And it has been life-changing. As you know, you've seen some of the testimonials from all the other beautiful souls that were there. It was such an incredible, powerful container.
Yeah, I think now I'll share my experience, because I guess for a long time I was trying to do it myself, trying to try find the YouTube video to figure it out, or try find, it's always like trying to do it by yourself. And I think part of it is, the worth of investing in yourself. And I think that's probably the reason why I was like, oh, it'd be nice to, but it almost feels like, should I feel guilty for spending my money in this way? So I think when I saw the course go up, I was like, I've considered it before in the past to develop my intuitive abilities, psychic abilities. And, I knew that it was going to be more and more important as part of my practice goes on. And yeah, I think in my testimonial, I think one thing that really came through is, and I think you can feel it in this, you know, in this transmission, this exchange right now, is that like, Rubia, you're really embodied, and like, you've really done the work, in the sense that, well, you've done the work up till now, and I'm sure there's more to do, but the way that you talk and the passion and the experience and the gravity and the weight behind a lot of what you say, like, there's pain and there's struggle and there's challenges to overcome. And this word trust, it's like when all the odds are stacked up against you, like, why, you know, why have I dropped this much money in a mentoring program, I imagine? And for me as well, not just, you're the Oracle, I think it's a good price. I think it's a great price. But, you know, I've done some courses that have been more expensive, and I wouldn't want to tell people, because they're like, what are you doing? Like, this is a scam. This is a thing. And this is it. Again, there's all this skepticism and all this, like, and yeah, we need discernment through this. And I think, you know, if we are led down that path where, you know, things aren't authentic or things don't have integrity, there's probably a message in that for us anyway, as a reflection, as something that we need to learn. But what I found throughout the 6 weeks was, you know, when you spoke about your stories, even some of the ones that, you know, you shared today, which I didn't hear about in there, it really does show that it's not, you're trying to unlearn programs and unlearn habits of, you know, why you would dismiss or discard or invalidate your intuition. It's almost like a muscle that we've like neglected for so long, and now it's like, how do we learn to feel like we can rely on it again? Because yeah, it's something that, you know, we might have, something that we've doubted in the past, or we think might be weak. So in the container with the rest of the group, it was so nice to have other people coming in with their own abilities, and that in a lot of ways validates a lot of, you know, there was a couple of people that were clairvoyant, so that they would see things, you know, they would have beings walk in and they would say that thing. And I think it's funny because in the 3D realm, and particularly with the rational mind and the scientific mind, like, we're so used to, you have to see it to believe it. And I think, you know, how this other quantum way works is you believe it first and then it'll show up. So it's almost like this reverse. You're kind of like, yeah, you're going against what feels natural or what feels familiar and comfortable. So the ability for other people to, you know, I've got my intuitive abilities. I have like this cognizance, like I get like these downloads and I can feel things, but, you know, I don't see things. So when other people see things, it's almost like in that container, there's all these different senses that are going off that gives, you know, different angles of the same experience or the same energy. And that helps us get a full and round understanding of what's going on, and yeah, different layers. And, you know, there were some people that were kind of fresh, I would say a bit more green to it. And for them, I think the really powerful thing is just to blow their mind and says, this is possible, because the idea of potential is something that we're not used to either. We're so used to putting things in a box and putting a ceiling on what is, you know, what reality is. And I think part of it is just like ripping that band-aid off and saying, well, the more we talk about it, the more that we get familiar, and the more that we can massage into our brain and into our comprehension, into our energy body, into our cells of a body, that this reality can exist. And when it shows up, you know, we don't dismiss it and we don't invalidate it. I'm going to share one example, just one story from my channeling, which I think, you know, after, you know, my experience, you know, and the structure might change for the next one, but, you know, practicing, it's like training wheels of trust with your intuition. Like we used oracle cards, and then what else do we do? Oracle cards.
We gave each other readings. So we would go, I'll give you a reading, then you give a reading to someone else.
And just to make it really like, relatable, is that when you pull an oracle card, you know, sometimes you are your worst enemy in terms of, is this fake? Is this a coincidence? Yeah. You know, am I making this stuff up? Yeah. And this is, again, it really throws into your face what your relationship with trust is. Because if you're doubting it, the way that you're gonna, you know, if you can't flow with it, then that's the barrier that needs to be worked on first. And just slowly through practice, repetition, and also exposure to other people that are doing it, and being in a state of flow and confidence with it, and just getting that hint, and then just saying it. And it's that don't let the mind get in the way of the message and then how it comes out. Because in that short space between the mind when it lands in and then the mouth as it comes out, you know, there can be a lot of filters and there can be a lot of like hoops to jump through. But that's one of the big things that I learned, just saying, okay, I pulled this thing, what's the things that come to me, the feelings, and that, you know, it takes practice to just see what comes up and then just say it without judging yourself. So there was that. And then we got to the first one where we trans-channeled, and it's almost like it took me back to like primary school, where you have to do something that's scary, like going up on stage to do a speech, or, you know, going up into the sports game and having to hit something, you know, there's this big moment that you face your own fears. And it's like, well, I signed up to the course to trans-channel. Like, I'm not going to, like, I don't want to chicken out. Like, this is, I'm paying for this. I should get something out of this. So I think part of it was like, if I'm here, we're up to week 4, week 5, whatever it was, coming towards the end of it. It's like, I need to jump in the deep end. So then, you know, I went in and, you know, it was really interesting because we're starting to like get more awareness about our sensitivity. And for me, I could feel the change, the shift in energy in my body. And that was one of the first, I guess, symptoms or signals that something had shifted, something had changed. I let some words out and I could feel that there was flow, and I didn't really have to think about things. I just felt and went with it. And when I came out, the super validating things that, you know, first of all, like, you know, you had some physical reactions to when I started, but also some of the other people in the group saw light, saw beings, saw different things. So through their senses and through their awareness, it really validated the fact that I had this experience. And from my mind, you know, through my clair senses, psychic senses, I didn't see anything, but they, you know, had experiences either through the body or through their third eye, that if just hearing their experience of what I experienced, it gave me that fuller experience and almost that confirmation, that validation, that like my internal experience was one thing, but for it to have some type of energetic ripple effect onto other people, like, amazing. And how beautiful, and, you know, some of the messages were beautiful. And so that was one of the big takeaways that I got, that in this container, you've got other people to help you and to share. And I think, you know, energetically, that's the purpose of it. You know, it's going to attract those people that are going to support you and give you that, you know, leg up, that help that you need to break through, if it's doubt, you know, self-worth, or if it's, yeah, just learning the technique. And I'm going to throw it back to you because I'm sure you've got some things to say.
I love how you describe it. It's amazing being in a group container, having support from others, hearing people say, oh, I feel like this, like, oh, that's how I feel too, you know, like, I'm not sure. And even me, when I wanted to do something that was outside of my comfort zone, which is pulling out a card and not reading the meaning of it. I don't usually do that. And I was the first one to go. And I told you guys, I said, this is uncomfortable for me and I'm going to do it anyway. And gave one of the other attendees a beautiful reading. And I remember when you were trans-channeling, I'm pretty sure I have all the clairs, so I could feel it, I could see it, and I could see how, like, the you know, this angelic realm, and it was just so incredibly powerful. And group containers, and like you said, there's a lot of people, like, we want to do it on our own, and we're like, how can I do this and not spend the money and save the money? And for me, and I say this from personal experience, not to try and convince people to do anything, for me, investing has been investing in my growth, and the things that I really needed help with has been the things that has allowed me to be here today. And that was the business side of things. And the lady that I did the business side of things, she is like really quantum and very intuitive. So like, I learned so much more than just the business side of things.
What I'm super interested in is, you know, the shift in consciousness that the Earth's going through. So this ascension process. I've got my perspective, but I would love to hear, you know, what your understanding, what your perspective on it is, and what your vision is for it.
For me, is really continue doing what I'm doing, which is a lot of the times it's almost like daily stepping into the unknown and trusting. because I would say that my business has moved from like baby phase to like teenager phase. So it's still like new-ish. But it's still staying, I'll say it's still, you know, doing the next oracle and doing the next thing and trusting what's the next thing that's coming up. So for me is continue to being obsessed with my own personal and business growth, so that I can serve humanity at the highest, and sharing the message that I can share with as many people as possible. And the way where I see that we're going, it really depends on, so there are multiple realities available. And as you know, you remember we learned at the Oracle, that are also all these different realms of Earth right now coexisting together. So you have the lower realms, the middle realms, and the higher realms. A lot of the disastrous things that are happening with economics and wars and governments and everything, it's happening in the lower and the middle realms. I am aware of what is happening, although, and some people judge this, and I am okay. People can judge me. Like, I am okay being judged when I say this, because I feel like that I am doing my part. So I know what is happening on those realms, although I don't connect with it, and I'm not tuning in, and I'm not wanting to know about it or talk about it or tell people about it or talk to my friends about it. Because everything that we think and talk about, we give more life to, and we create more of. So I am connecting to the higher realms of Earth, which is supporting other humans to fully connect deeply with their intuitive and channeling gifts and abilities, so they can follow their soul's calling. Because when they do so, that is when we continue anchoring new Earth realities. Because new Earth is a frequency, and new Earth frequency is not one of what's happening in the lower and the middle realms. So I am connecting to new Earth frequencies right now. And I already know a lot of people, like most of the time, I generally feel like I am living on the higher realms of Earth. I'm having an incredible, amazing life. And the more I do this, the more I expand my abundance grid, the more I bring through abundance in all ways, including money, then I can help, other communities, Earth communities in other countries, other cities that aren't able to do so. But if I stay in the lower realms and the middle realms, where I don't know what recession, whatever it is, and I'm in scarcity, then I have no money, then I can't help myself and I can't help others. So I know a lot of people, I personally know a lot of people that are buying land and they're creating temples of light. And even though I am not, buying land is not my, it's not something that I'm going to do, although I am going to be one of the people that I'm going to live in those lands, creating new Earth communities, teaching intuition, teaching channeling, and being who I am, being a trance channel of galactic beings. So we're all coming together. I don't need to have it all figured out. I don't need to do it all. I'm doing what I do best in the higher realms of Earth. And I come together with others that are doing the same. And that is the pathway, the fastest pathway to ascension and evolution of personal and of humanity. This is really, really, really important, because there are way too many people out there giving life to lower realm realities right now by talking about it, thinking about it, and getting caught up in the fear narrative. And it is a choice. We all get to choose. And some people will say, oh, you're airy-fairy, you're not thinking about it, you're not living about it. I'm like, call it what you like. My intuition and my gut and my whole being and all my soul families and galactic beings, they all, like, I know from the bottom of my heart that I am following the highest path to ascension. And that works well for me.
Can I add to that a bit? So I think, I can see that some people might hear that and say, okay, that's spiritual bypassing. That's taking the spiritual route. You're ignoring everything. There's things, shit hitting the fan. You're not being realistic. And what I say to that is, it comes down to your healing first, because your healing colors the lens in which you see the world. So if you see the world in scarcity, if you have fears, if you're judging other people, it's because you're used to being criticized and judged yourself. The way that we speak to people, the way that we perceive people, is also how we perceive ourselves. It's the internal and the external. And I think this is why inner work was probably the one thing that I started with. That's what I do one-on-one. And it's just about the ego work, the shadow work, the inner child work, the reparenting, the emotional intelligence, balancing masculine and feminine. So those are the main pillars that I've had to really look at and understand and create a practice out of, to really get to know myself, to know, okay, well, if I was someone and heard Rubia say that, it goes, that's not fair. Like, you're not allowed to do that. If it's because I wouldn't give myself permission to do that. It's because I'd feel guilty. And that means that I have a theme of guilt. That means I have a theme of self-sacrifice. That means I haven't been able to learn what sacred selfishness is, because we have to learn that the best way that we can help others is to help ourselves first. If we are at that vibration, we are affecting people through our field, through our energy on a quantum and consciousness level, because they are coming into our field and just feeling that, hey, we're not distracted. We're not, frazzled. We're not, in this hysteria, paranoid state about what the external world is telling us, because we are informing ourselves from the inside. Our guidance, like you said, like channeling intuition, is guidance from the inside. And when you turn your awareness and your trust inside, you're not looking at the news. You're not looking at society. We understand also that having a bigger picture, not what's your relationship with mortality. If you think that this one lifetime is all there is, you're going to cling on with dear life that this pandemic can do this, or this recession will do that. And this is what's so beautiful about having a spiritual perspective, is because the soul, the spirit, having this, human experience right now, even just that possibility will start to shift someone into a more expanded, way of seeing the world. And then when you do some of this healing, past life healing, when you go into, first of all, taking care of this life healing, and then going off into, the karmic stuff or any of that kind of baggage, then you suddenly have this wider scope of understanding, so that you see there's cycles, and you understand that planet Gaia is a consciousness who wants to ascend. That's part of this system of solar system, which is part of this bigger universe thing. And then when you have the open-mindedness to consider the narrative, which is the ufology, or the new stuff, the new age, you could call it new earth, 5D, all these quite new paradigms that are coming in that have been recent. And I think they've come through channeling, through incredible people that are bringing in new information. And that's the only way that we can break out of this old way of perceiving the world and say, well, how do I see it in a new way, non-dualistic way? How do I see it from a, systems and, rhythms? And yeah, like what's happening now is a deconstruction, so that there can be a rebuilding. And it sounds so beautiful that you're focusing on building it, the new world. But that's because you've done the work to clear the channel. Again, you've cleared the channel. You've cleared the channel so that you can be a pillar of strength and communication in a time where shit's hitting the fan. Because for a lot of other people, and I get it, I get sometimes influenced by this, but again, by focusing on what's my relationship with fear, what's my relationship with guilt, what's my relationship with shame and coercion and manipulation and control and sovereignty and authority. All these huge themes that are playing out on a global stage right now makes us ask, am I going to play small? Am I going to be victim consciousness? And am I going to go with the narrative because the government knows best for me, the healthcare knows best for me, the education system, the economics, does my value, does my self-worth, does my sense of security sit and rest with external physical assets, wealth, money, the government, society, that stability, that infrastructure? Or does your stability and security come with your connection to the higher realms, to your spirit, to your soul, to your intuition? And this is what I find really beautiful about your course, is that you're helping people shift this focus on the external, which we grew up with, but then finding this whole new source of strength in the internal. And I think it's so important, so valid. And when you do the work, you know how hard it is. And when you get to this point, you can speak about it without that guilt. And that is such a testament to how hard it is, because it's not easy to change. It's not easy to unlearn habits and also, traumatic things. It happens in spirals. It's not like, I think we're getting more quantum with the ability to let it go quicker. But in the past, it would come around again and you'd have to take off another layer. But I think we're being supported by all this photonic light think we're being supported by all these divine teams that are allowing us to release karmic stuff a little bit easier and a little bit more fluid, because it's supported by all this energy, and all this energy is bringing all this trauma, dense emotion up to the surface so that we can release it. But we need the intention to release it. And I think this is why guidance, this is why, like, you know, circles, communities are so important, because yeah, it's very possible, and it's a different way of healing wellness, not necessarily just through the physical body, through medication, through that kind of stuff. It's energetic, it's spiritual, it's emotional, it's, you know, mental programs, portals, templates. You know, there's a whole new language that we can talk about quantum healing and, you know, deep subconscious healing. And I think, yeah, it's exciting to be, yeah, contributing to this change. And, you know, I think I just, yeah, it's super exciting. That was my vent.
Thank you. That was perfect.
Thank you so much. This was such a beautiful little transition. I had so much fun. I think, yeah, hit some deep things, and I think hopefully people take you know, message of optimism and possibility and potential and curiosity, and stir all these new things for people. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kevin.
You're very welcome. I'll put some links to your other oracle, which is starting off next week, is it?
14th of July. And if people are listening to this later on, I'm going to be continuing in the next few weeks and months.
Cool.
Yeah.
Perfect. So yeah, links are below. Check out Rubia's Instagram, Facebook, a bunch of different things. And yeah, hopefully we get to do this again. All right. All my love, thank you so much for your time. See you later, everyone. See you on the next one.